shoe on you.
Better watch out, buddy, because I'm feeling pretty angry right now. I don't want to have to hurt you.
Oy, ben ich Walt mir da. You have a note where we're up to?
I believe we're up to Laqualis is Habus Atzilus. We stopped here.
Right.
Chadpul.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Right. So we have the place? Well, here do you become That's right. Right here. Close it up. That's yours. So he's now explaining this Indian, but the Zohar says that the object of the creation is begin the ishtameidun lay, so that he should be known by his creations. That's why he created the creations, so that he be revealed and be known. So the Rebbe is asking, that doesn't seem to be an ultimate answer. It's an all-encompassing explanation, because this beginning Ishtamedulay may satisfy the reason for the creating of the higher worlds, because there Elokus is Begili. But the lower worlds, Elokus is Behel. And therefore they don't know Elokus. And this is what he's explaining over here, that in the higher worlds, Elokus is Begili. And what that means. Let me elaborate a little bit on this concept. Before, we spoke about it, we learned a little bit about it, now he's going a little deeper. What does it mean, Elokus is Begili? And he says over there that they were created in such a way that the oir is felt within them. They feel the oir. And that their mitzias is bibchinas elokus, not bibchinas yesh. I don't think we really elaborate sufficiently on these points. First, I want to distinguish between mitzius bibchinas yesh or bibchinas elokus. What does it mean that something is defined, that it's mitzius? If you don't understand something, please stop me, because here we have subtle things. That it's mitzius is a mitzius of yesh, or that its mitzius is b'chinas elokus.
We did discuss this before.
We didn't understand. I didn't understand that. I asked them, but how come that? I mean, by mitzius yesh is understood, because mitzius implies yesh. But how it can be mitzius and elokus together?
What is the union from elokus? We started talking about the yesh. I want to bring in the whole union. Mitzias, that mitzias yesh, and this is a mitzias of elokus. And we discussed it, like you right said. We discussed the union from yesh several times over this shiurim. Mitzius yesh means that its presence, the reason I recognize that it's here, is not necessarily because of the message, because of the quality of the union, but it is simply because it occupies space. It's there. Das ist das Metzias Yesh. Everything in existence must have a Yesh in order to be a Metzias. Except one thing. Elokus. Elokus does not need a Metzias Yesh in order to be. This is what we learned in the previous page. That he is Nimtzo, below Metzias Nimtzo. That his Metzias is not dependent on Metzias. Now, there is absolutely no way that we can illustrate an inyan. We can say, oh, I understand how it's possible, but it means it's a Nimtzo, below Metzias Nimtzo, that it doesn't have Metzias Yesh, because in our orientation, everything has a Yesh. Even our deepest thoughts, even what we, the deepest level of thoughts, what's called machshava sheb'machshava, is also a Metzias Yesh. There are oisiyas, there are words, there are definitive concepts that are there, and that is the Metzias. The place where one concept is distinguished from another concept, this defines its Yesh. So, therefore, to understand this inyan that Elokus is not B'B'chinas Yesh is almost impossible for us. But we can understand, in contrast to Metzias Yesh, we can understand what we mean when we say Elokus. For one thing, which we already mentioned in the class, and maybe in the general class, the following scenario, the following phenomenon that goes on in a person's mind. That when a person asks, where does the world come from? Why does he ask the question where the world comes from? How do you know it comes from any place? The world is here. So what are you questioning its existence? It's right here in front of you. And what is the answer to this? And this is invariable. Any intelligent person asks, where does the world come from? What does it stand for?
You're saying it's not a valid question, or maybe it's not a question at all?
No. It's absolutely a valid question. I'm asking what makes it valid. Why does a human being ask that question? What does he perceive that makes him ask the question? Again, you can ask questions without being involved in the question. Oh, I have a question. As long as I can phrase the question, it's a question. That's not the question we're talking about. We're talking about a question that really bothers you. You have a personal question, not just to show that you can ask questions. You ask a question because it's a real question in your own mind. And what is it that makes a person wonder and ask, where does it come from?
Because he perceives it's not self-sufficient. It's perceivable by everybody.
Right. What is absolutely true. It's because he perceives that it's not a real Metzias.
It's not here by itself. Right.
Before I elaborate on this, I want to put it in contrast. But then we say, oh, God created it. But we mean by this answer, again, one who is out to ask questions will, if he wasn't involved in the question to begin with, in other words, if this question was not his question, the question that he said, oh, it's an askable question, it's a question that can be phrased. So then his next question would be, who made God? because neither the question nor the answer meant anything to him. But if he asked the question because this is a personal question, that he really recognizes this as a question, then when he answers that God made it, that is an answer. And what does this answer imply? That, what does this tell him? That God does not elicit the question where he came from. God is a real entity, doesn't need to come from any place. It's a real truth. In order to relate, in order to relate, please follow this. In order to relate to this sequence of questions and answers, we have to employ the union that we've been discussing throughout this whole period of what is seichel. That seichel has its own perception of reality. Seichel is not recognizing the presence of the world by the fact that there is a physical object that has absolutely no purpose and no meaning. This is not what the seichel relates to. Seichel relates to that which is meaningful. Like we spoke about seichel and mushi. Therefore, when you ask the question, where does the world come from? You're not asking the question, where does the rock come from? You're asking the question, where is such an organized, such a perfect world, such a meaningful world come from? If you perceive the world, if you don't have this seichel, and you don't perceive the world from a seichel standpoint, from a sichel, you perceive the world as rocks and pieces of wood, and earth and water. So just as you don't see it from a seichelic perspective, you won't ask a seichelic question. Lahavdil, an animal doesn't ask, where does the world come from? It's not bothered by the question. Why is it not bothered by the question? Because it doesn't see a world that needs an answer. What's the difference? I have an apple. What's the difference where the apple comes from? It's an apple that's edible. Finish, I eat it. But when you perceive that the apple is not just there, the apple clearly was created, in other words, it grew specifically in order to feed me. The sun rose specifically in order to give me light. The clouds rose specifically in order to rain. There's a whole system. Then you have the question, what is this all about? Do you follow what I'm saying? This is the meaning of this, and I say that it's the seichel, it's your seichelic perception that brings the question to light. If you come into a disarray, you know what disarray means? A total disorder. pieces of wood, broken tables, broken chairs, whatever it is. You're not going to ask who lives here. What is this all about? Why is it put together this way? It's meaningless. It's just there. When you enter a room that's organized in a clear organization, clearly meant to be used for a certain purpose, you ask, what is it for? What is it about? You come into Beis Medrash and you see tables separately. You say, oh, these must be people learning separately. When you see tables set up in some kind of a group setting, you ask, oh, what's going on? Because you see that it has a different function. Our question on the world, the whole process of question, the whole process of inquiry, begins with seichel, begins with our seichelic perception of what we see, of the world.
This is essentially like the watchmaker. You know the watchmaker theory?
Go ahead.
In the Taras in public school, they said what is it? What's one of the? It's a very old argument for the existence of God. They said that if you were to walk on the street and you were to find a watch with all of its gears and dials and everything, and it's very exact, you could not come to the error and think that maybe
it came by itself.
Maybe it was like an accident.
Right.
You would infer that there's a watchmaker.
Right. Yes, that's true. But I want to call your attention to a step higher than this, to even deeper than this. Okay, and this is because this watchmaker is sufficient to answer that question, but it's not going to help you learn some of love. I'm going to take you to a deeper level. Because this watchmaker, when you see a watch and it's working in some kind of a system, somebody must have made it. Does not, yes, definitely somebody made it. So therefore what? So what? Therefore this watch is holy. I know somebody made it. What does it mean to me? How am I involved in this whole process? Yes, you have proof. Like I speak all the time. You can prove things. But proving things does not relate them to you. It only forces itself on you. It says, this is how it is. You can't deny it. But after all that you can deny it, you still remain where you were before. What is my life about? The fact that the watch was made, what does that have to do with me? Does that mean that I have to get a watch because somebody made it? The question, the level that we're talking about, and this is what where Chassidus, what Chassidus is pulling us and directing us, is what is your individual question? What do you see in terms of that which relates to you? What is the world that you're living in? We have to, this is why I said that Seichel Anushi is a prerequisite for Seichel Alaki. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking in general classes. It's a prerequisite that you perceive things on the level of Seichel. Not where this came from, this is still on the Behema level. It's all proofs. Sure, it's a sound proof. But when you talk about where it comes from in terms of what does it mean to me? This world that I personally live in, that I personally relate to, What is it sent for? What is the world that makes you ask the question? I said before, it's the world that you live in when you see a living world around you. We were taught, the Chacham have made it a comment, that before you eat anything, you should make a bracha. And we learn that from the Pasuk and all that. But beyond the halacha inyan of making a bracha, Hashemayim Shemayim LaHashem Oretz Nasa Livnei Yodam and so forth, there is a Chassidish aspect in it, a living aspect, and that is that if you pick up an apple, and it's an apple that's just there, it's there. Because it's there, I'm going to eat it. That means that you are relating to the physical world. You are being fed by the physical world itself. The tree that produced the apple didn't have you in mind at all. Doesn't care what happens to the apple. You grabbed and said, oh, I can use it. So then, this whole scenario that there was an apple and you ate it and you got the nourishment from it is totally meaningless. It's just that you grab it and you nourish yourself. So it's again, you're just taking care of yourself and you don't care about everything else. So we make a bracha. What does the bracha say? No, bracha says, I'm not eating the apple because the apple exists. I'm eating the apple because Hashem made the apple for me. That's why I can relate to this apple. In the most, in the most profound sense, this is what it means. I eat the apple only because Hashem told me, eat the apple. I made it for you. This is why it says in the Torah, right in the beginning, in the Sheshis and Ibreshis, it says that Hashem created all beings, and He created the fruit and the vegetation. And He said to Adam, the vegetation I have made for you. I'm giving it to you. Nosati lachem. It's not just there and you go and grab it. So you should know it's okay. You're not deviating. You're not forgetting about Hashem. You are doing what Hashem. You're being fed by Hashem at this time. Then it's acceptable to the human mind. Then it becomes acceptable to the human mind. Otherwise, it means like this. In order to survive, I have to submit to the physical world. In order to live like a human being, I have to think on a different level, on the human level, on seichelic level. There's such a big gap there. I'm being fed by the physical world that is totally meaningless, and I have to live on a meaningful world level. Do you follow me? You follow me, my friend?
I just stopped for a minute.
This is what a person is confronted with when he says, everything belongs to the Meibash. Everything is Hashem. Except when I have to go to work. There, the boss is the boss. Because after all, this is the natural world. He is the boss. So what happens? Where does he live? We have to connect and extend that which we have in Bismillah, that which we have in Shul, into the physical world. Say no. The physical world is also made by Hashem. What does it mean it's made by Hashem? It means that it's made for Hashem's purposes. If there's an apple, Hashem made the apple for you to eat. Why did he need you? That's another thing. But it's clear, it spells us out. Okay, having come to this, it's still on a simple level, but still we have a clarity in what we mean by the world that we are discussing. It's a world that is perceived by the seichel. It's not a world that is there just physically. And that seichelic world asks a question. We have such an organized world, and it's clearly for me, and it's for each one of us, and it's all serving this purpose. What does it mean? Where is it coming from? And the answer is, it comes from Hashem. Hashem made it. Which means that the union that this union, that there is this interaction in this organized world, needs, and clearly needs an author. What is it for? What is its aim? When we say that this is Hashem, then that ends our questioning, because this gives it reality, and Hashem is real. Hashem is real. And this is the difference between Olam Ha'atzilus and our world. In our world, no matter how well we'll understand this Indian, we will only understand it in Seichel. But we will not see the reality that Hashem is real. We can only see what Hashem made, and that points to the reality of Hashem. But we don't see the Hashem's reality. In Olam Ha'atzilus, this reality is real.
They don't ask questions.
They don't have a question, because they don't have a question to begin with, because the reality is there.
So you said
Okay, so this is the pshat, that their Metzias is b'bchinas elokus, not b'bchinas yesh. B'chinas elokus means that it's real in and of itself. If you see a tree producing fruit, and it's clear that it's producing fruit which is nourishing and gives food, you ask the tree, why you're producing fruit? Who are you serving? So the tree says, I don't know. I was told to produce fruit. So ultimately, you go around and you question until you understand that Hashem is the one who told the fruit to do this for you. But and the surface, you don't see it. When you would see to begin with that the fruit is not a mitzvah by itself, but it has a godly quality, then you wouldn't ask the question, why you're producing fruit. B'bchinas elokus means that you see the reality of it to start with.
You're talking about the existence is in B'chinas elokus. Not
Yes.
we see.
That's right. No,
So that's what I understand. That's what you say. We're talking about the perception, how you perceive. Here we perceive world, and then if you're smart enough, you ask a question and you get an answer. Over there, you don't ask any questions, and they perceive God, and it's just like that.
Right.
So what about themselves?
That's right. They themselves are. Their mitzias is b'chinas elokus, and that's why they perceive elokus. That's why elokus is begila to them.
so the statement that the or that the Oyer Behem Begiloi. So maybe it's a subtlety, but it seems like it's very. Very simple then. That the godliness there is there's no question to be asked. Well, here it's inferred, and then you come to ask a question. There's no question. So I think I'm missing a subtlety of the explanation you're giving as far as. It seems like it's very simply here puts it that there's or and it's begilui, and here there's or and it's behelim.
And all I'm explaining is what does it mean the or is begilui and what it means is behelim. What or are we talking about?
No, that's really explained well. That's I understand. I don't understand what does it mean that Mitzius and difference of the so I can't understand. Because as far as you explain Mitzius means that something that has to that occupies time and whatever and other things. And
okay.
Or if not, then it's not Mitzius.
In our world, I did explain. Let me go back a step. Like I said, the tree is producing an apple. Even if we understand that the tree is producing an apple for food, still it's just a mitzius. You don't see whom the tree is trying to feed. But the reason. You don't see who they're trying to feed. The truth is that if you go down to the physical level, the tree is not even producing an apple. Whatever it is producing.
It's just a certain process.
It's just a certain process. It's not even producing food.
Right.
The fact that it's food is a godly definition.
Right.
Hashem said, this is food for you.
Right. It could have been something else also.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Oh, I understand what you're going. Right.
So here, it starts from a mitzius.
Right.
But this mitzius has a godly quality to it. Has a godly purpose.
We have to find out.
You have to find out, and even after you find out, you only know about it.
You also don't see it.
You don't see it.
You just know about it.
That's right. And you can still deny it. There are people who deny it till this day,
right,
that the apple is produced by the tree to feed people. They say that every time you pick an apple from a tree, you're stealing from the tree. They're not going to jail you for it, but you're stealing from the tree. And there are people who say that you're not allowed to eat meat because you're killing an animal. Who are you, right? But Hashem said, I've created the animal for you to eat. That's why you can eat it. I created an animal for you. But do you see it? No. Because you see the Mitzias. You don't see the reality. What is this all about? And what is it for? You don't see it. Because your Mitzias begins from Yesh, not from Elokus. But in the higher world, the whole Mitzias is Elokus. In other words, its meaning is what makes it be.
It's only its reason.
Only its reason.
That's what it's being. That's what it means.
That's what it is.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. What
it's for? What is there for?
Exactly.
That's what it's being.
That's what it is.
So, we say like down here, like Mitzias is like the physicality, and its purpose is an additional thing to it. So, when we speak Lamaila and we say a Mitzias of Elokus, of course we're not speaking in actual physicality, but are we saying that there's an aspect of it which exists and its purpose are one and the same and they can't be indistinguished, or there's nothing that exists besides the purpose? Like there's nothing. It is its purpose. It is what it's trying to convey. It is.
There are right. That's what you said before. It says there is both. There is oil and keli, and the keli is like the mitzius in Natzilus.
But it does not conceal on the.
But it doesn't conceal. The keli is also Elokus.
Alright. It's like with the example that you give of the book.
Right.
The book itself is also conveying the message, just as the letters inside the book are conveying the message.
Right.
Alright.
Right. As a matter of fact, there's an interesting halacha that in the Sefer Torah, the gilyon of the Sefer Torah is also Kodesh. The gilyon, the empty space around.
to it's connected to the halacha that it always has to be space. It cannot be that letter should touch.
Yeah. It has to be mukiv gvil, it's called.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm talking about not even with the letter. I'm talking about the space on the page that's around the whole page.
Right.
Is also Kodesh. Because the whole thing is Kodesh. Okay, this is a separate thing. That's why it's called Torah Shebiksav. That it's not only the words, but the fact that it's written is also part of the Torah. Okay, now we understand. Okay. Okay, we're not going inside. Uklolus is havus ho atzilus hu bivchinas kiruf. The mode of atzilus, of being created, of the creation of atzilus, the method employed there is bivchinas kiruf, that it was created to be close, not to be at a distance. What does this mean? So he explains very briefly, Sha'arei hein bechinas gilui ha'helem. Because the Atzilus, the Eres v'kilim da Atzilus, are bechinas gilui ha'helem. Gilui ha'helem means that it reveals that which was earlier contained within a higher level, which was earlier concealed. Let me explain generally what that means. Gilui ha'helem. Not in the same context as Atzilus, but just the idea of Gilui ha'helem. We have thought, speech, and deed. In order to come to deed, it has to go through various levels, and then it has to come into thought, and then to speech, and then into deed. So we are going to examine the relationship between thought and speech, and then deed. When you are designing, you have an idea what to do, and you design this union in your mind, in your thought, and then you speak it, you spell it out. So that spelling out of your thought, the speech has not become a separate entity. The speech reveals that which you had in your thought. Then when you go and do it, even let's say you write it down, which is also the Maisa. What happens when you write it down? As long as it was in thought, it was connected with you.
The speech?
The thought, as long as it was connected with you. It wasn't a separate mitzvah. Even though you thought about it clearly, but it was connected with you. It only existed where you existed. When you spoke it out, so yes, the sound and so forth, but nevertheless, it was still connected to you because you were the one who spoke it out. The speech reflected what you were thinking. It didn't become a separate mitzvah. When you wrote it down, then it became a separate mitzvah. What happens now? Now, somebody can take this book that you wrote and go away to a place where he doesn't see you and know what you're thinking. Which means he can be berichuk, you can be at a distance and still have your thought.
Also, if he heard what you said, it also will be the same thing.
he heard what you said is different. Because when he heard what you said, is he heard what you said while you were saying it. Afterwards, it's only how he translates for himself what you said. It's not the same thing. But what you said existed while you were speaking. Whereas what you wrote exists even after.
In the same way that you wrote it.
The same way you wrote. You have your writing.
Right.
So here we have the illustration what it means b'mechinas kiruv or b'mechinas slichut. Kiruv means that I'm only telling you what I'm thinking. It doesn't go separate. It continues to reflect that which it obviously reflects what I'm thinking. Still connected to the thought. This is what he says over here. Because it's Gilui Ha'elam. Mishikosu b'mokim acher. V'yesh loima. So the Rebbe explains. V'zeh inyan. This is the meaning what we say that Masha Atzilus hu loshen etzloi v'somoch. Atzilus, we don't call Atzilus as being created. But we're saying Atzilus, it's emanating. That's what Atzilus means. And it also has the meaning of the word etzloi v'somoch, that being close by, close to him. Hainu, and the point there is to denote the following, that the Atzilus, who has a sphere, is the Atzilus. These two words, Atzilus, before the sphere is in the middle. The first Atzilus and second Atzilus have two different meanings. The second one means the Atzilus means of the world of Atzilus. Sphere is of the world of Atzilus. The first Atzilus means the verb of Atzilus, of the emanation. The emanation of the spheres of Atzilus, who b'bechinas kiruv, is emanating in a way of b'bechinas kiruv, in a manner that it remains close to its source. Umishum zeh, and as a result, klolus spheres the Atzilus, the spheres of Atzilus as a whole, b'bechinas oires v'kelim. But they are both oires and kelim. Harei heim dvukim umiyuchodim be'oirein soiv hamatzim. Remain connected and united with their source, with oires of hamatzim. Diyu v'chayei echad, diyu v'gamei echad. Which means that the oires and the kelim are one with their source. I want to interject here briefly the union of oires v'kelim. And oires v'kelim the Atzilas amiyuchodim b'matzim, b'inus of hamatzim. We know that oires v'kelim are very different inyonim. And yet he says that oires and kelim are both miyuchet b'inus of hamatzim. And I'd like that we should understand what we mean when we say oires and kelim. The union of oir, the simple illustration of the union of oir, is the sunlight. What is the what is special in this inyan that sunlight is called oir? What is the difference, just to put it in contrast, what is the difference between giving you this pen, any kind of a mitzias, and sunlight? Or let's say you take a glass of water from a well, and you take light from the sun. The water from the well, we don't say we took oil from the well. We took water from the well. The sun, we say we took light, oil. And it's really a motion for the union of oil and mine. In both instances, when you take water from the well, or take light from the sun, in both instances, you were taking something that approximates, that's similar to its source. Water from the well. What does the well consist of? Water. When you take light from the sun, what does the sun emanate? What is the sun? Light. Light, and the sun is be'etzem light, and it emanates light continuously. Yet there is a very, very profound difference between when you take light from the sun and take water from the well. One obvious difference is that when you take water from the well, the water that you took from the well now becomes separated from the well. And they exist outside of the well. The light that you take from the sun can never be separated from the sun. It exists only while it is connected and in one with the sun. As a result of this, in order to take water from the well, you have to provide a keli. How are you going to take water from the well? You have to have a cup that you fill it with water, and then you can take the water. How do you take sunlight? Do you need a keli to take sunlight?
You can't take it.
Huh?
You can't really take it.
You can really take it. Right, but how do you receive sunlight? Through a keli?
No, straight.
You receive it straight. The light itself is what you're taking. You're not taking it through any kind of means. You take the light itself. When you have taken the water in the keli, now you have two things. You have a keli and you have water in it. The keli becomes only a means for transporting and bringing the water to you. The keli in itself does not have the quality that you're looking for. Because what are you going to be benefiting from? You're going to be benefiting from the water, not from the keli. The keli, you're also benefiting in the sense that the keli provides the means by which you can take it. Whereas in the case of the sunlight, you benefit directly from the sun itself, from the light. In essence, this is illustrative of the union of oir and keli. Oir is that which has the quality that which provides you the benefit directly, the oil. You benefit directly from the oil. The keli is that which houses the oil and provides a means by which you can hold on to the oil. It's not that this is what you're looking for itself. You with me, sure?
Yes.
But we don't have any what's it?
One second. One more step and then because we have to stop. As such, if the oil doesn't have a keli, it's just the oil itself. What makes it be? What makes it be here? A keli, when you have water in a keli, you understand you have the keli, and that's why you have the water. What makes the oil be here? What's the answer? The oil is not here. Its source is here. The sun itself is here. That's why the oil is here. You can't catch oil in a keli. The reason the oil is here is because its source is here. Do you follow? The sun itself makes the oil be here. And if the sun disappears, the oil also disappears with it. In other words, the presence of the oil is not that the oil is a metzius that was caught in a keli like water was caught in a keli. The presence of the oil is maintained here because the sun itself is here, the very source of the oil. This is telling us a very simple thing. That if you have oil, then you have a direct connect to the source. If you have keli, then not necessarily do you have a direct connect to the source. Now, the whole idea of keli is that you can take it and it becomes a metzius by itself. But in order to benefit from oil, it has to be directly connected to the source. So when we say that Atzilus is b'chinas kiruv, and the oiris v'kelim advukim v'yichodim be'irisav hamatzil, that means that in Atzilus you are benefiting, you are getting directly the oil from Lamaila, from the source. This is what makes the oil be there. And what we are saying here is more than that, not only the oil, but even the kelim are also miyuchot. This is a separate thing that needs to be explained. But the point is, this is the meaning that it's miyuchot by itself. That the oil itself is what you are having. Why? Because the source is there. It's not something that needs to be translated in a kelim.
The case of Martha Kalim Lamala.
I'm saying this is a separate thing, but and therefore, this is it. Therefore, it justifies to say that in Atzilus there is a recognition of a Lakus, and therefore, when the Zohar says with Yin the Yishim Meidenle, it makes sense. But in Atzilus there is like knowledge of a Lakus directly because the whole in Metzius of Oyer consists of the fact that there is a Mokir. That there's a matzah. And there is a gil, that this is the pshat gilu yoy, the oir is begilui. Oir begilui means that you see not how it is contained in the keli, but you benefit directly from the oir. Okay. Here it is.
We stopped at Yugamehu Chag Chulis.
Mm-hmm. Osher, how are you?